Some men call it progress, down with those who doubt. To join the causes others join and shout when others shout. Come, you're a man, no passive stone. Stand up and call your soul your own. Go on alone, go on alone. Banish weakness, go on alone. Go on alone, go on alone. Don't look back, just go on alone. Some men lack the daring ever to be free. They shun the heights and crowd the depths and court security. Come, you're a man, no passive stone. Stand up and call your soul your own. Go on alone, go on alone. Banish weakness, go on alone. Go on alone, go on alone. Don't look back, just go on alone. Cowards see but pride in singularity. Oh, never mind if men are wrong, so long as they agree. Come, you're a man, no passive stone. Stand up and call your soul your own. Go on alone, go on alone. Banish weakness, go on alone. Go on alone, go on alone. Don't look back, just go on alone. Claim the power within you, error to defy. The world may change or disappear, but truth can never die. Come, you're a man, no passive stone. Stand up and call your soul your own. Go on alone, go on alone. Banish weakness, go on alone. Go on alone, go on alone. Don't look back, just go on alone. Thank you. Thank you. And this reading is from Rays of the One Light, weekly commentaries on the Bible and Bhagavad Gita. This week's reading, The Law of Karma, Bondage or Soul Release. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramhansa Yogananda. In the Epistle of St. Paul to the Galatians, this oft-quoted statement is written, "Be not deceived, God is not mocked, for whatsoever a man soweth, that also shall he reap." In the autobiography of a yogi, Paramhansa Yogananda tells a story from the life of the Benares saint Trilanga Swami. A skeptic once determined to expose Trilanga as a charlatan. A large bucket of calcium lime mixture used in whitewashing walls was placed before the Swami. "Master," the materialist said in mock reverence, "I have brought you some clabbered milk. Please drink it." Trilanga unhesitatingly drained to the last drop the containerful of burning lime. In a few minutes, the evildoer fell to the ground in agony. "Help, Swami, help!" he cried. "I'm on fire. Forgive my wicked test." The great yogi broke his habitual silence. "Scoffer," he said, "you did not realize when you offered me poison that my life is one with your own. Except for my knowledge that God is present in my stomach, as in every atom of creation, the lime would have killed me. Now that you know the divine meaning of boomerang, never play tricks on anyone." The well-purged sinner, healed by Trilanga's words, slunk feebly away. Yogananda goes on to say, the reversal of pain was not due to any volition of the master, but came about through unerring application of the law of justice, which upholds creation's farthest swinging orb. Men of self-realization like Trilanga allow the divine law to operate instantaneously. They have banished forever all thwarting cross-currents of ego. Not by reason alone, but by self-realization are the ins and outs of destiny fully understood. Their web, though tied forever to the post of ego motivation, is too intricate to be perceived as a single thread. Only great masters can see it with clarity. It is visible to them in all its workings, not from within the tangle, but from above in superconsciousness. As Sri Krishna said in the 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, he who beholds inaction in action and action in inaction is wise among men. He is one with the Spirit. He has attained the true goal of action, perfect freedom. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. Om, Om, Om. I remember trying to understand the concept of karma when I was a kid, and I first ran into the word, which, it's a word that's been out there for thousands of years, but, kind of like yoga and different things. It's like it didn't make its way into the common lexicon, other than in cute, colorful little ways like my karma hit your dogma or something like that, It didn't, which doesn't make any sense really anyway, but anyway, it ought to be obvious. It's the sort of teaching that ought to be obvious. It's pure physics, it's pure math, it's pure, this side of the equation equals that side of the equation. The trouble is that we typically only see a short little piece of the view. It's almost like we're looking at the world through blinders because that's what we're supposed to focus on. That's why they put blinders on a horse, is because they want the horse looking straight ahead. They don't want the horse looking at all the commotion that's going on either side. Stick with where you're going. And so that's a helpful thing. But in the grand scheme, it looks really unfair. What happens in the world seems really unfair because, as Swami points out in various readings, one child is born crippled and another one is born with a silver spoon in their mouth. And, one child is born on the right side of the tracks and the other one is on the wrong side of the, it's like on and on and on. And we look at that and we go, or someone who's kind all their life and seems to just receive nothing but brickbats in return, and others who are noted mafiosi or whatever and die happily in their bed, seemingly. It's interesting though, I remember reading in one of Swamiji's books, I believe at the time it was known as Crises in Modern Thought, it was later rewritten to be Out of the Labyrinth. And Swami was analyzing karma in that book, and he did it in an interesting way. He took the example of Joseph Stalin, and he wrote from the perspective of Stalin. What does the world look like from Stalin's point of view? And you would think, okay, well, this guy, he sort of has the whole country, has the reins of the whole country. He can pretty well do whatever he wants to do. If he wants somebody executed, they get executed. And believe me, he certainly seemed to do that a lot. But Swami made the point that from his standpoint, there was no breathing room whatsoever. It's like he had shut himself into a prison of consciousness that was so small that there was not even elbow room around him. And sure enough, he died alone. The physicians were too scared to come and treat him because for fear of what might happen. Nobody wanted to disturb him, etc. I mean, it was just kind of a tragedy in one sense. Master went on to say to a group of disciples, including Swami, that he would suffer for 100,000 years for the crimes he had committed, for the evil that he had done. And Debbie Mukherjee, who was present in that conversation, said, "Only that much?" And Master said, "What do you want? God is no tyrant." I mean, 100,000 years, I mean, do the math. That's a long time. It's like, whoa, that's how many thousands of lifetimes? If a lifetime, like from adulthood on, is 20, 30, 50, 60 years, I mean, it's a lot of lives. Well, how do we understand the broader picture? Well, like with last week's topic, reincarnation and karma sort of go hand in hand, and we have to learn to see that bigger view and yet stay focused on the part that is for us to deal with. And that part is whatever is in front of us. And karma, karma is like, I'm inclined to think of it. This came to me yesterday. Nirmala and I were on our way down to the river to take a walk, and we got to the driveway of the park, and right ahead of us was this very endearing sight. There was a dad and a little boy. The little boy might have been 4 years old, something like that, riding next to each other on bicycles. And I think they were like in a hurry to get to the birthday party or the whatever, because the dad was he had his hand on the back of the little boy and was propelling him. And the little boy was like pedaling just furiously. I don't know if it was doing anything or not. But the little guy, I mean, why I noticed it at all was because, I mean, apart from the fact that they were in front of us, because they were pretty far ahead of us. But you know how you notice things that stick out? You notice what isn't quite right. And what I noticed was that the kid was listening to the right. His dad was to the left, and then occasionally he'd be listening to the left. Well, he had training wheels, so I mean, he wasn't likely to go over, plus dad really had his mitts on him. But what was interesting to me is it just struck me, karma is the training wheels on the bike. Karma says, okay, if you got it, stick with it. But if you get a little off, I got a wheel on this side and I got a wheel on this side. So, you're not going to go, I mean, if you really work at it. By the way, I tested this out as a kid. You can crash on training wheels. It is possible. You can screw it up. It takes some effort. It can be done. But typically, the training wheels will keep you up. And, so you can go along. And if you get a little wobbly, then it keeps you from crashing and burning. Well, karma's there to do the same for us. It's just that we are so, I really appreciated Carmen's image of the little kid in the high chair and the spoon. Drops the spoon. Deadpan. No comment, it's like, the spoon comes back, drop the spoon again. Let's see how that way, it gets a reaction, somebody picks it up. Well, let's see if we could do that again. Do it again. How many times have we dropped the spoon hoping that something would happen? It doesn't help you. If the spoon's on the floor, you can't use the spoon to eat. It's like whatever's trying to happen isn't happening because now the spoon's on the floor. Sooner or later, they may just leave it on the floor, and then you're just stuck there, making a mess. Well, that's what we do when we haven't learned to keep the bike going straight and upright. I've been amazed to watch occasionally when these people who are extraordinary riders and extraordinarily balanced can, even with their shoes in the pedal clips, keep the bike balanced standing still at a stoplight. It's like, no, I can't be bothered to take my foot out of the thing. I'm going to just stay here. And they wiggle the front tire. And and if you go over, you can break your hip that way. That's been done. So, I didn't try that. That was beyond the scope of my daredevilness. But we tend to think that, well, surely it doesn't apply to me. This is one that I tried out a lot of times as a kid. They tell you, oh, no, don't do that. Oh, well, let me see. I bet I could do it. And trouble ensues. The hot stove, passing your finger through the match, to see how long you can keep it in the flame without it frying your skin. It's just like, how many different ways, I don't know, maybe this is the unique purview of little boys in the world, is to test out every possible limit, go flying over the jump on the bike, see how high you can go. I used to we had a swing set in my backyard, and at one point, my dad, because I liked to do track and field in various ways, my dad had created for me a little high jump standard. So 2 kind of wooden poles with pegs. It was simplistic by comparison with what's out there now. But I used to practice doing the high jump in the backyard. Not the kind where you fly over backwards and land on your neck, but the kind where you go over forwards and you land on your feet. Well, anyway, I used to set the high jump standard near the swing set. So I'd get swinging on the swing, and I would do the swing high jump, which you can go quite a bit higher if you're swinging on the swing. Anyway, like I said, there's this interest in testing all those things, all those limits, but we don't necessarily know why is it that we are propelled in that way. What is it that's pushing us? And some of that is just karma. Some of that is, well, we did it in the past and we tried stuff and we landed on our noses, and we don't always perceive, like in the story in the reading with Trilanga Swami, part of what's interesting about it is that the guy gets it immediately. He gives Trilanga the poison, this burning lime mixture. He swigs it all down. And boom, the guy who gave it to him falls on the ground. Oh my God, I can't believe it. And his insides are coming apart because he is experiencing what Trilanga would have experienced. Trilanga is like, well, I guess this is time for a lesson. And, he lets the lesson just pass right through him and go to the other guy. There's someone once slapped Master in public, slapped him like that. And the man's arm was paralyzed for 3 months or 6 months, something. He had quite a reaction to it. That, again, the thwarting cross currents of ego were not there. Thwarting cross currents of ego just means that it gets tangled up in the typical person, they get slapped. It's like, oh, well, I've got some weapon in my pocket, I'll pull that out and we'll see how you do. And it starts going back and forth, and it ends up as a Hollywood movie. And that kind of thing goes on and on and on. And it just ends up in this big tangle. And then people can't see. Then there's a cause over here and an effect way over here, and the path in between the two, nobody knows. And by the time it catches up with you, in the reading, he says, now that you know the divine meaning of boomerang. Well, we all know what that is. But imagine if you spent incarnations flinging these things out there, and some of them it takes 500 years for it to come back. You might be looking in some completely other direction and get hit in the head with it when it finally does come back. And that's the part that we don't always see. So there was a story. I'll give you a couple fun stories of karma. One of them, and these are true actually, there were a couple of young guys. This is in the spirit of we don't see the whole picture. A couple of young guys who had just become freshmen in high school, and they were in in the remedial math class as freshmen. So they weren't actually at the bottom level of math as typical for freshmen. They were in the one to catch you up, to get ready for that. And in this class happened to be a senior who was a young woman who dressed in black, very goth sort of style. And, you know, they already felt a little sheepish being in the bottom grade of it, but then they were looking at her and thinking, well, she must be really, you know, not quite with it if she's a senior and she's in the basic freshman thing. So, you know, they sort of cackled a little bit and poked fun. And the interesting thing was she didn't show up very often. She only showed up on the days when there was a test or there was an assignment due or there was a quiz or something like that. So they only saw her once in a while. Well, at one point, their conversation sort of trickled over into the lunch room, and they were, again, kind of cackling about this girl. And somebody overheard and said, who are you talking about? And they said, well, she would always dresses in black. And they were like, are you kidding me? You think she's stupid? She tested out of calculus as a sophomore. She blew through everything this school could offer. And she was half a credit short from graduating early. And so they offered her anything she wanted to take. And she decided to take remedial math because she only had to show up on the days when there was a test. Otherwise, she could go to sleep in the class and pass it without even thinking. So they were like, oh, oh. And part of what they took away from it was, don't make a snap judgment about what you see, because we often don't see the whole picture. And it's sort of, okay, so here's another example. Although this one is a tighter window. There's a man who was begging on the street. This happened in Kansas City. Billy Ray Harris was the guy who had his little cup out. And a woman came and offered him some change. And unbeknownst to her, her engagement ring came off with the change into the cup. And so her name was Sarah Darling, very sweet name. Anyway, so he didn't know he didn't know who it was from. He didn't know, it just was there. He takes the money out and there's a ring in there. Well, he took the thing to the pawn shop to see what it was worth. They were going to give him $4,000 on the spot. So this must have been quite some ring. Well, he decided he was not going to do that. He was going to hang on to it and see if she came back, which she did the following day. And so he gave her the ring back, and she and her fiancé decided to create a, GoFundMe sort of affair where people can submit donations for the guy. And they were trying to raise $1,000 for him, which was very sweet. And they raised $190,000 for him, which enabled him to make a down payment on a house and get a vehicle and get back on his feet and get in touch with his family, which is very sweet. And you think of how amazing sometimes the response. He was just being honest. That's all it was. I mean, he could have taken the $4,000 and nobody would have been the wiser in a sense, except he would have known. And it's the same thing with any time and Master makes this point in various writings where he's talking about like the higher levels of the astral world, where even the slightest mistake of consciousness causes incredible pain, because it's like we're aware at that point, I don't want to get out of line. I don't want to go off the trail into the woods. And it reminded me of a movie that we watched with Swami once. And this was and Swami appreciated it. Many were the movies that we used to lovingly call it the 5-minute test. Can it pass the 5-minute test? Because often, by the time 5 minutes were up, we'd hear Swami doing double breaths, It was like, are we really going to put up with this? And we could hear it. We could even tell it sort of by his body language. Swami, we don't have to watch this. If you don't want to watch it, let's don't watch it. But anyway, this one passed the test. And even though it was an actor that he didn't typically like, this one was a nice movie. It was called Magnificent Obsession. And in the movie, and interestingly, some of it was filmed at Lake Tahoe. This is from 1954. This young playboy, billionaire, is racing a speedboat on Lake Tahoe and manages to crash it and needs to be resuscitated. Well, the only resuscitation machine, which I suppose is like an atrial fibrillation thing, in the whole area was at a clinic or at the home of the cardiologist who used it. And so they go to get it. Well, that cardiologist himself suffered a heart attack just after they took the AFib unit. So he died. Meanwhile, the playboy gets resuscitated and comes back to life. And so then there's this whole drama around him sort of coming to learn that had happened. And it was just because he was goofing around and just being an imbecile. And it goes on that he had been in medical school, apparently, and he bailed out because it was just too, it took actual work, and he was just wanting to have fun with his life, and he had the money to go and have fun. And he decides to go back to medical school and actually try to make something of himself. And then I won't tell you the rest of the story, except to say that he becomes a high-level surgeon, and that sort of becomes his magnificent obsession, is to actually serve people and help people. And he ends up doing that with the rest of his life. And he has completely turned away from the desires that he had had as a youth, and it ends up coming back to him in a very sweet way, a very special way. But often that's the case, that we think, oh, I have to have it now. And can you turn this thing off? This is just turn it, this monitor's just too much. Thank you. Just sounded like it was raining outside and just static. We often think, oh, I have to have it right now. And, it's like we have to learn the hard way to allow time for the process to play out. Allow it to come to us in its own time and in its own way. Swami wrote a letter in 1984. I'm sure I must have gotten it back then, but I didn't remember it until just now, 40 years later. Someone posted it. And in that letter, he was saying, what a wonderful blessing it is to be able to serve and to have this life together. And, we, at that time, the only community that we had was outside of Nevada City. There were no city communities developed yet. There were some in process, including here in Sacramento, but it hadn't evolved into an actual community. And Swami was saying, but what if Divine Mother took it all away from me? Would I still love her just as much? And he said, yes, I would. If she placed me in a slum and said, this is where your work is going to be, he said, I would be just as happy, because nothing can take my love for her. No outward circumstance can take that away. No challenge, nothing that comes to pull me away from my center can take that. And it was so beautiful because, and in fact, when we went to India, he had a picture framed. We had it produced over there and then made a big frame. And it was about 5 feet wide and 3 or 3.5 feet tall, of the Crystal Hermitage, the beautiful gardens in the Hermitage looking out towards the view. And part of why he wanted it in the living room, and it was part of the television set, so whenever he was being filmed, you were looking at him sitting in front of this picture, and it looked like you're sitting in front of a window looking into that view of Crystal Hermitage. He said, I want people to know what we've left behind in order to come here. Because, India, in many places it was lovely, but in many cases it was pretty challenging. It was hot, it was difficult. And he said, I did it because Divine Mother asked me to come, asked me to do this. And so whenever we face the challenge of, I didn't necessarily want it to be that way. Something gets taken away from us. Something comes to us that we didn't necessarily want it. I remember in the path, Swami talked about other gifts that don't come as attractively wrapped, And, we think, didn't really want that one, but I guess I got it, so now I have to do something with it. But it comes to what's inside of us. And when the training wheels come off the bicycle of life, what guides us is grace. Because, in fact, I've been reflecting, because Christmas season is just beginning. We have our lovely Christmas tree here. And it's the season of that hope, of that yearning, of that calling that brings Christ into our hearts and into our lives. And part of why it's special is not some specific religious expression. It's because we're no longer bound by the law of karma. The law of karma is just there to keep us on the right track. It's not there to bring us freedom. And if we stay stuck in that world, it's sort of like staying in court. You get called into court and put on trial. What's the best outcome? Well, let's see, not guilty maybe, or gee, maybe this case should never have been brought, or something like that. But you're still stuck paying for it. I remember that my dad had bought a business and loved developing the business. He made the lifters that help people get out of a wheelchair and, into a bed, a bath, a car, etc. Hoyer lifters. That was his older sister's maiden or married name, Hoyer, and that became the company. He said, but we were getting sued all the time, and they were completely frivolous lawsuits. But every single time you have to go and you have to defend the lawsuit. You have to prevail in the lawsuit. You have to pay the lawyer's fees in the lawsuit. And even if you win and theoretically it gets covered, it still takes up your time. And so he ended up selling the business later because it was just like, first it was hard to get insurance. And he kept saying, sooner or later, the big one will come. Sooner or later, you'll get a judgment against you. Well, the law of grace is a higher law than the law of karma. And that's what we come to when the heart's devotion ignites. It's like we're no longer thinking about karma. In the movie, That Magnificent Obsession, he is so focused on serving humanity that there is no thought of the past, there is no thought of anything. It's just, how can I serve? How can I help? Who can I save? And that's, in each our own ways, that's the path upward, is to ignite that heart's devotion, express it in whatever way God gives us to express, and leave karma in the rearview mirror, just like we left the training wheels off the bicycle. Once they've finished with their use, we leave it behind and we ride into the sunset. God bless you.
To death I'm a stranger, poor youth that I am. What destiny bears me hence to that shore? The chalice of life, scarce sipped at the brim, has slipped from my grasp and stains the dark floor. Has life any meaning, the grail that men seek? has never been found on earth. The fountain of youth only a myth. None who ever roamed far in search of it ever found what he sought. Yet see how the night sky, which banishes the sun, will banish in time like the dawn. Death comes like a gypsy who camps on the way. At dawn his dark caravan's gone. To death I'm a stranger, yet strangest of all. The stranger I feared is a stranger no more. The shadow I feared but hides from the sun. In death there is peace on God's infinite shore. Yet see how the night sky, which banishes the sun, is banished in time by the dawn. Death comes like a gypsy who camps on the way. At dawn his dark caravan's gone.
So we'll have some chanting and then a short meditation following the second chant. And to prepare for that meditation, let's inhale, tense the body, and then exhale and relax, throw the breath out. Once again, inhale, tense the body. Exhale and relax more deeply. And one last time. Inhale, tense the body. Exhale and relax completely now. This first chant is listen, listen, listen to my heart's song. I will never forget thee. I will never forsake thee. Listen, listen, listen to my heart's song. Listen, listen, listen to my heart's song. I will never forget thee. I will never forsake thee. I will never forget thee. I will never forsake thee. Listen, listen, listen to my heart's song. Listen, listen, listen to my heart's song. I will never forget thee. I will never forsake thee. I will never forget thee. I will never forsake thee. Listen, listen, listen to my heart's song. Listen, listen, listen to my heart's song. I will never forget thee. I will never forsake thee. I will never forget thee. I will never forsake thee. Listen, listen, listen to my heart's song. Listen, listen, listen to my heart's song. I will never forget thee. I will never forsake thee. I will never forget thee. I will never forsake thee. Listen, listen, listen to my heart's song. Listen, listen, listen to my heart's song. I will never forget thee. I will never forsake thee. I will never forget thee. I will never forsake thee. Listen, listen, listen to my heart's song. Listen, listen, listen to my heart's song. I will never forget thee. I will never forsake thee. I will never forget thee. I will never forsake thee. Listen, listen, listen to my heart's song. Listen, listen, listen to my heart's song. I will never forget thee. I will never forsake thee. I will never forget thee. I will never forsake thee. Listen, listen, listen to my heart's song. Listen, listen, listen to my heart's song. I will never forget thee. I will never forsake thee. I will never forget thee. I will never forsake thee. Listen, listen, listen to my heart's song. Listen, listen, listen to my heart's song. I will never forget thee. I will never forsake thee. I will never forget thee. I will never forsake thee. Listen, listen, listen to my heart's song. Listen, listen, listen to my heart's song. I will never forget thee. I will never forsake thee. I will never forget thee. I will never forsake thee. Listen, listen, listen to my heart's song. Listen, listen, listen to my heart's song. I will never forget thee. I will never forsake thee. I will never forget thee. I will never forsake thee. I will never forget thee. I will never forsake thee. I will never forget thee. I will never forsake thee. Take this next chant directly into our meditation. the end of the chant, you can continue the words mentally, a few repetitions, then follow any meditation technique that you know and are drawn to, or if meditation isn't familiar territory for you, just observe the breath coming and going at its own pace, relaxed, dive deeper and deeper beyond the commotion of the senses. This chant is I am Om, omnipresence, I am Om, all pervading, Om, Om, come to me. Omnipresence, I am Om, all pervading, I am, all blessed, I am Om, 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 come to me, oh, come to me, Om, Om, come to me, oh, come to me. Omnipresence, I am Om, all pervading, I am Om, all blessed, I am Om, Om, come to me, oh, come to me. Om, Om, come to me, oh, come to me. I am Om. Omnipresence, I am Om, all pervading, I am Om, all blessed, I am Om, 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 come to me, oh, come to me, Om, Om, come to me, oh, come to me. I am Om, I am Om, I am Om, I am Om. Omnipresence, I am Om, all pervading, I am Om, all blessed, I am Om, Om, come to me, oh, come to me. Om, come to me, oh, come to me, oh, come to me, come to me, Let's meditate. remaining inwardly focused. Let's listen to these words on today's affirmation topic, gratitude. This is from Affirmations for Self-Healing by Swami Kriya-yoga. Gratitude is a way of returning energy for energy received. Only a thief takes without paying for what he gets. And one who accepts a kindness without returning gratitude, as though the kindness were his by right, demeans both the giver and himself. He demeans the giver because by ingratitude he implies that the kindness itself was inspired by selfish motives. And he demeans himself because by giving nothing in return, he breaks the cycle of creativity, without which prosperity's flow, both materially and spiritually, is blocked. Accept nothing inwardly for yourself, but offer everything to God. Don't let yourself be bought by others' kindnesses. Be grateful to them above all in your soul by blessing or praying for them. Give gratitude first of all to God, from whom alone all blessings truly come. And let's practice this affirmation together now. First out loud, then a little more softly, then in a whisper, taking this into the subconscious mind. And finally, silently offering this up into the superconscious mind. Please repeat after me. I give thanks to the giver behind each gift.
I give thanks to the giver behind each gift.
And to the one giver behind all that I receive.
And to the one giver behind all that I receive.
My gratitude rises with devotion's incense.
My gratitude rises with devotion's incense.
To the throne of omnipresence.
To the throne of omnipresence.
I give thanks to the giver behind each gift. And to the one giver behind all that I receive. My gratitude rises with devotion's incense. To the throne of omnipresence. And now say this affirmation silently, offering this up into the superconscious mind. I give thanks to the giver behind each gift, and to the one giver behind all that I receive. My gratitude rises with devotion's incense to the throne of omnipresence. Pray silently with me. I thank thee, Lord, for all thy blessings, but most of all, I thank thee for thy love.
And from Whispers from Eternity. Dear Father, we are traveling by many true paths to thy one abode of supreme truth. Help us to understand that the diverse religions are all branches on thy one tree of truth. Bless us that we may enjoy the intuition-tested, ripe and luscious fruits of self-knowledge that hang from every branch of true scriptural teachings. Thy temple is but one. Thy name is silence. In it we sing thee a combined chorus of many religions. Teach us to chant together in harmony. May the combined expressions of our love for thee make thee break thy silence and lift us up, as a mother does her children, onto thy lap of universal understanding and immortality. Sing along with us to confirm thy acceptance of our chants. To thee.